yeah, that's it. That's our trash since last week. So our zero waste journey began January 1st of 2018 as a New Year's resolution, actually. We had been thinking about ways that we could reduce our plastic usage and reduce the amount of trash we were sending to landfill. And in doing so, we discovered this idea of zero waste, and we decided to start. I'm doing this because I care deeply about the planet and the future of all life. I've always tried to do the thing that was the most sustainable, but zero waste was an additional thing that I could do. I remember when I first decided to start reducing my waste, I couldn't help but notice it every time I left the house. Like, there was litter everywhere, there was plastic bags stuck to cyclone fences as I was driving down the highway. I went into stores and basically I was like, all of this is destined to become trash. It's like we're basically buying trash. We should be seeing this disposable culture as extreme and not, right, zero waste as extreme. So I think the more people do it, the more it will be adopted and it will just become hopefully the default.
It's really important to start with something that you're at ease to do, and the fact also that you are acting. It will help you to reduce the anxiety.
This quote that I like is that action feels better than anxiety. And I think a lot of people are experiencing this eco-anxiety where we know that the way the world is set up and we know that what we're doing is harmful, but we don't feel powerful enough to do anything about it. And I find that living a zero waste lifestyle is so empowering, and it makes you realize that you don't have to wait for anybody. Throughout the week, I make a note in my phone. I have a standing grocery list organized by place that I shop. Local, bulk barn, the farmer's market. And so when I run out of something, I write it on the list and I write it under the place where I'm gonna buy it. So that way when I see I have a few things, then I know it's worth making a trip. And it's especially helpful for when I shop package free because I need to bring the appropriate bags and containers for whatever it is that I'm buying. I've got a set in the house and a set in the car so that I always have them no matter where I go.
Every single step is important and every single individual is important to after have a massive and collective impact. Events like the festival and other events that make people meet together is important because people is just aware that there are 1,000 other people that are doing exactly the same, and they say, okay, actually it makes a difference because I'm not alone.
The reason why we became so taken into this system of a wasteful system is because we are trying to become individualistic, but we forgot in the process how to do everything collectively or together with other people. So being with other people is a sense of accomplishment. Friendship is really the key to really bring changes, because if you do anything alone, it's lonely. But if you do it together, it gives you a source of happiness.
Making this transition to zero waste has changed the way we shop. It's also changed the way we cook. It has changed things for the better. I feel like my son and I, we spend a lot of quality time together because we're not focused so much on things, but really on time spent, and we do a lot of things together. As my son's gotten older, it's just become much more participatory. In terms of peers, it's been interesting because there aren't very many people who live this lifestyle. So when I go out and I meet friends, sometimes it's a matter of, can we choose a restaurant that's maybe not a fast food restaurant? Because I'm always thinking about what kinds of trash I'm going to be exposed to wherever we go. But my friends now, they're very used to it. They know that I'm gonna bring my containers. When we eat at each other's houses, they know that they can send me home with leftovers and that I'm well equipped. And then with family, it's tricky. When I went back home for the holidays and I was staying with my mom and my sister who don't share the same lifestyle, it's hard, not to, I don't want to impose my views on things, especially as a guest, but it's something that I always think about. This is my tiny trash can, but I really just use it as a representation of the average amount of trash that my family produces in a given week. But actually, my tiny trash can is just this wastebasket that's here in my kitchen, and it's actually the only trash can I have in my entire house. And then on the left, I have a big 10 or 11 gallon trash can. That's actually my compost bin, and then this is my recycling. In my trash this week, I have a series of receipts which cannot be recycled or composted because they actually have BPA. They're thermal paper. I have a few different produce stickers. We went pumpkin picking in order to prove that we paid for our pumpkins. We got little stickers that didn't even stick to the pumpkins on our pumpkins. And then my son had a few treats this week, so we have a couple candy wrappers. But yeah, that's it. That's our trash since last week. I still think of compost and recycling as just other forms of waste that are maybe less bad, but they're still wasteful. So I actually try to reduce the amount that I compost. I try to reuse food scraps if at all possible. And I also try to reduce the amount of material that I recycle. And actually my goal this year is to only take my recycling out 4 times this year because I try not to use any plastic. So most of what you'll see in my recycling bin is paper, cardboard, and some metal.
There are many movements that is happening that the consumers are demanding the distributors and then producers not to use plastic. You can really start thinking about different packaging or incorporating the plastic material that is made of organic material. It is not that difficult, but then production cost is really higher.
We expect that actually every actor in the society just get involved to reduce the waste. So it can be the individuals, but also organizations, companies, schools, because we need to educate also children to that, and let's say city councils and other governmental organizations.
I try to buy everything in glass, and the only things that I haven't been able to refill or buy in glass are the sriracha sauce and my soy milk. So I buy milk in consigned glass containers. This is actually cream, and I refill my milk at a zero waste grocery store. I refill my wine bottles at a bulk wine store. I even buy my eggs without a container. In terms of food storage, I always try to store in glass whenever possible. One, just because it's better for the food, but also because I can see everything in my fridge, so there's less possibility for food waste. And then when it comes to storing my food, I try to use just water for like herbs and other vegetables. And when I'm not able to use the entire fruit or vegetable, I love these like little silicone food huggers that keep the food fresh until I can use the whole thing. So instead of using like saran wrap, for example, and then I even just put things in glass containers if I don't finish, like in this case, the whole garlic clove or all of the cheese. When I was in college, I used to buy all my clothes secondhand. And then as I got a job and I got a little bit more money, I started buying clothes at like regular stores. And then when I decided to go zero waste, I decided from that moment on, I wasn't gonna buy anything new. When I had my son 10 years ago, all his clothes since he's been born have all been secondhand. So it was just a matter of why am I not following the same principles when it comes to my own stuff. So I've just made a conscious effort to only buy secondhand. Like everything I'm wearing is secondhand except for my socks. Socks and underwear, I still buy new. But everything else I buy secondhand. And I get those at like thrift stores, consignment shops, and then my friends and I, we do clothing swaps. So that's a fun way to get new pieces too.
There's not a unique way to practice zero waste. And this is the way we address the question in the association. We want to share the resources and the solution that exist, and then you as individual, with all your constraints, financial, time, where you're living and so on, you just pick and choose the solution that suits you and your family. So every family can be zero waste. You have a conscious way of consuming, and then you can improve, of course, because it's a lifestyle, and it implies that we need to change our habits. So it will be an evolution, but everybody can be zero waste.
Living zero waste is kind of one of the most inexpensive things you can do. Like reusables are always going to be less expensive in the long run than buying disposables. And when it comes to other choices, I think that everybody has to make a decision for themselves, like what's important to them and what their motivating or like deciding factors are going to be. So if money is a deciding factor, then there's a different way for you to achieve zero waste than somebody where money isn't an issue. So if you're really just focused on waste, you don't necessarily have to buy organic. But you can still buy locally, which tends to be less expensive. And you can still avoid plastic and do all those things. The purest form of zero waste would be use what you have for as long as possible. And that doesn't cost any money. It's not so much zero waste that's affected my income, but it's because I embarked on this zero waste journey and I discovered that people were really interested in what I was doing, that I started blogging about it. And that has taken time away from my freelance business. So it's not so much living zero waste per se, it's the fact that I'm choosing to document it, write about it, answer people's questions. That has taken some time away from my freelance business. So I did experience a decrease in income the first year that I was living zero waste. And it might be true this year as well. However, I will say that I didn't notice. It wasn't until I go to do my taxes and I show up at my tax account and he's like, what happened? I said, I know. And I didn't even realize that I had made less money because I was spending a lot less money as well. The thing that makes living a zero waste lifestyle difficult, it's not the actual actions of using a reusable bottle or reusable bag. Like that gesture is no more difficult than picking up a plastic one. It's just the thinking ahead part that I think is hard when you're not used to it. But I think once you get into the habit of thinking ahead and planning ahead, that also becomes second nature, so you don't have to think about it as much. When you feel that like, oh, I feel, like I messed up, like immediately think, what could I have done differently to prevent this? And then put that into place so that next time you're not caught off guard. And so then there's less for you to have to remember.
So in the association, we don't think we can be 100% zero waste, because zero waste is just, it's not exactly an objective, but it's just a term, and we cannot be zero waste because being zero waste means we don't exist.
The production process that involves the production of the product that you're consuming might have created so much waste, and that was not recycled into the normal ecosystem, and that may make your consumption not zero waste. So I think you have to be careful about any process of the consumption or production process that really could have created some waste. So by having your non-wasteful lifestyle, by not giving out or leaving out anything to the dump site, you may feel good, but actually you may be betrayed.
It's impossible for us to live truly zero waste, but I think we can get a lot closer to it than we are now. That's why I like to say tiny trash can, because it seems more achievable than like absolute zero, which I'm hopeful that will happen. That'll be possible years in the future, but right now, no. I didn't anticipate all the changes that were going to happen, not just in our home, but inside of me as well. And one of the things is that I appreciate the items that I do have so much more, and I've eliminated the items that I didn't use very often or that I didn't really truly need in the first place. And so I try to surround myself with really just the essentials and items that I love very much. When I do buy items now, I think about them differently. I think about, is this something that I want to have for a long, long time, like many years, maybe even this might be the last time I buy this item for the rest of my life. And that when this item is no longer useful, which will inevitably happen, how will it be disposed of? I'm so much happier. I thought I was a pretty happy person before, but I think just living a lifestyle that's in line with my values, like more in line than it was before, just reduces any sort of contradictions in my life. I don't feel this guilt anymore. I feel like I am doing what I can to the best of my ability, and I'm always finding ways that I can be better, and doing that feels so much better. I think there's a saying that is often attributed to Gandhi that says, like, happiness is when what you think, say, and do are all in harmony, and I think that that's, for me, what zero waste encapsulates.